Message to the Black Man in America by Elijah Muhammad, Part 11. We must remember that we cannot depend on the white race ever to do that which we can and should do for self. The American so-called Negroes are like the Bible story of Lazarus and the rich man. The story of Jesus must have been foreseen at this time. The Bible beggar was charmed by the wealth of the rich man to whom he was a servant, and he could not make up his mind to go back and do something for himself. The beggar was offered a home in paradise but could not make up his mind to leave the gate of his master, the rich man, wishing for that which God had in store for destruction along with its owner. The beggar's eyes could not turn from the perishable wealth. So it is with the American Negroes. They are charmed by the luxury of their slave master and cannot make up their minds to seek for self something of this good earth. Though hated and despised by the rich man and full of sores caused by evil treatment of the rich man. On top of that, he is chased by the rich man's dog and still remains a beggar at the gate. Though the gates of paradise were ever open to him and the gates of hell were open to receive his rich master, the American so-called Negroes have the same gates of paradise open to them but are charmed by the wealth of America and cannot see that great opportunity that lies before them. They are suffering untold injustices at the hands of the rich. They have been and still are being lynched and buried. They and their women and children are beaten all over the country by the rich slave masters and their children. The slave houses and churches are bombed by the slave masters. The girls are used as prostitutes and at times are raped in public. Yet the Negroes are on their knees begging the rich man to treat them as the rich man treats himself and his kind. The poor beggar kindly asks for the crumbs, a job, and a house in the neighborhood of the rich man. The Negro leaders are frightened to death and are afraid to ask for anything other than a job. The good things of this earth could be theirs if they will only unite and acquire wealth as the masters and other independent nations have. The Negroes could have all of this if they could get up and go to work for self. They are far too lazy as a nation, 100 years up from slavery and still looking to the master to care for them and give them a job, bread, and a house to live on the master's land. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Surely the white race has been very good in the way of making the jobs for their willing slaves, but this cannot go on forever. We are about at the end of it and must do something for self. The slave master has given you enough education to go and do for self, but this education is not being used for self. It is even offered back to the slave masters to help them to keep you a dependent people looking to them for support. Let us unite every good that is in us for the uplifting of the American so-called Negro to the equals of the world's independent nations. Ask for a start for self, and the American white people, I believe, are willing to help give us that start if they see you and I are willing to do for self. It will remove from them not only the worry to try to give you jobs and schools to a lazy people, but also will get them honor and sincere friendship all over the Asiatic world, and with God himself will prolong their time on the earth. We must stop relying upon the white man to care for us. We must become an independent people. So-called Negroes should: 1. Separate yourselves from the slave masters. 2. Pool your resources, education, and qualifications for independence. 3. Stop forcing yourselves into places where you are not wanted. 4. Make your own neighborhood a decent place to live. 5. Rid yourselves of the lust of wine and drink and learn to love self and your kind before loving others. 6. Unite to create a future for yourself. 7. Build your own homes, schools, hospitals, and factories. 8. Do not seek to mix your blood through racial integration. 9. Stop buying expensive cars, fine clothes, and shoes before being able to live in a fine house. 10. Spend your money among yourselves. 11. Build an economic system among yourselves. 12. Protect your women. Stop allowing the white men to shake hands or speak to your women anytime or anywhere. This practice has ruined us. They wink their eye at your daughter after coming into your home, but you cannot go on the north side and do the same with his women. No black man feels good by nature seeing a white man with a Negro woman. We have all colors in our race: red, yellow, brown, and jet black. Why should we need a white person? Africans would not dare allow their women to be the targets that we allow ours to be. If I were not protected by Allah God, how would I be able to stand before this white man unafraid and speak as I do? You educators, you Christian ministers, should stop preaching integration. The most foolish thing an educator can do is to preach interracial marriage. It shows the white man you want to be white. Educators should teach our people of the great history that was theirs before they were brought to America in shackles by the slave masters. Our children should be trained in our own schools, not dropped into the schools of the enemy where they are taught that whites have been and forever will be world rulers. I am the first man since the death of Yaqub, commissioned by God directly. I say no more than what Jesus said. He said that he came from God. I say that I am missioned by God. Ever since the 1930s, America has been struck by drought and dust storms. The outlook for hail and snowstorms, great flooding, rains, earthquakes, terrific cold and ice. These blasts of the elements will ruin crops, highways, railroad tracks, bridges, and street pavements. The Holy Quran prophesies Allah sending a calamity to destroy crops and generally plague man. It could be locusts, insects already here. If they were multiplied into an unlimited numbers, they would terrify man and drive them to distraction. The members of the black nation who refuse to believe and submit to the truth will be burdened by the overwhelming grief and hounded by bitter regret. They will find no relief or rest day or night. The things of which I have spoken will come upon America and its people within the next 6 years. You will separate yourselves automatically when these things come to pass before your eyes. Who can be saved, you will ask? The Muslim believers who have submitted to do the will of Allah and His religion Islam, and those who faithfully followed and obeyed His messengers. Let us try to do something for ourselves. Give praises to Allah for converting the people to me and blessing us with the peace and security. Allah is one God. He is independent and has no need of us, but we have great need of Him. It is He, the prophets predicted, will come in the last days of the world, seeking us, the lost people, to save us and restore us to our own. I declare to you that He has come in the person of Master Wallace Fard Muhammad by 1. A summary of his work for the past 33 years, and 2. By the messenger who believes in what has been revealed to him by his Lord, and do the believers. They believe in Allah and His prophets and His books. We make no distinctions in His messengers. We hear and we obey. It is difficult for me to advise my followers on taking part in the corrupt politics of our enemies, who are in complete control of their political affairs. There are many black men and women who make splendid politicians. They could accomplish considerable good if they, like the white politician and his people, were giving proper and equal recognition and justice for themselves and their people. If our politicians are to serve us, they must have no fear of the white man when they plead our case in the white man's courts before white judges. The strongest politician of our kind, or the person who comes nearest, as far as I know, to give us political justice in the white courts, if we had our complete backings, is Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Though he is not a Muslim politician is what you need. But Congressman Powell is not afraid and will not be easily bribed. for he is not hungry. There are two other good politicians, but I will not mention them by name at this time. If they could shed their fear, they would make excellent political leaders to guard our interests. We must give good black politicians the total backing of our population. Your program, the one I have given you, which is carried in the first part of this chapter, should be put before Congress. The Civil Rights Bill and integration will not stand and can never bring independence to you and your people, no matter who is president. The wisest and surest way to success is to unite behind me. I assure you that, with the help of Allah, you will accomplish your goals, money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life. The black man in America faces a very serious economic problem today, and the white race Christianity cannot solve it. You, the so-called American Negro, with the help of Allah, can solve your own problem. The truth must be recognized by the black man. He himself has assisted greatly in creating this serious problem of unemployment, insecurity, and lack. Before the black man can begin to gain economic security, he must be awakened from dead and gain knowledge, understanding, and wisdom which will enable him to follow my teachings. Islam, and only Islam, will point the way out of this entanglement of what is in the midst of plenty for the followers of Islam, the true religion of the black nation. Know thyself and be yourself. Islam makes a true brother to his brother. If this be true, how can a believer, Muslim, be a true brother to another believer and boycott his brother and support the enemy? The believers in true Islam must stop looking up to the white race for justice and take the following steps to correct his problems. Acknowledge and recognize that you are a member of the Creator's nation and act accordingly. This action, in the name of Allah, requires you as a Muslim to set an example for the lost found, your brothers in the wilderness of North America. This requires actions and deeds, not words and lip service. The following blueprint shows the way. 1. Recognize the necessity for unity and group operation. 2. Pool your resources, physically as well as financially. 3. Stop wanting criticism of everything that is black owned and black operated. 4. Keep in mind, jealousy destroys from within. 5. Observe the operations of the white man. He is successful. He makes no excuses for his failures. He works hard in a collective manner. You do the same. If there are 6 or 8 Muslims with knowledge and experience of the grocery business, pool your knowledge, open a grocery store, and you work collectively and harmoniously, Allah will bless you with success. If there are those with knowledge of dressmaking, merchandising, trades, maintenance, pool such knowledge. Do not be ashamed to seek guidance and instruction from the brother or sister who has more experience, education, and training than you have. Accept his or her assistance. The white man spends his money with his own kind, which is natural. You too must do this. Help to make jobs for your own kind. Take a lesson from the Chinese and Japanese and go give employment and assistance to your own kind when they are in need. This is the first law of nature. Defend and support your own kind. True Muslims do this. Because the so-called American Negroes have been deceived and misled, he has become a victim of deception. He is in today the worst economic condition of North America. Unemployment is mounting, and he feels it the most. He assisted in reducing himself back to the present insecure economic condition. You, the black man, are the only members of the human race that deliberately walk past the place of business of one of your own kind, a black man, and spend your dollars with your natural enemy. The so-called American Negro has never in the history of America been known to boycott or criticize the white man as he does his own kind. He thus shows love for his enemy and hatred for his own kind. A true Muslim will never boycott the place of business of his fellow Muslim or black brother. A true Muslim is proud of the success of his black sisters and brothers. He recognizes that their success is his success. He recognizes the law of Islam. If one brother has a bowl of soup, you have half of that soup. In this perilous and evil time, with the confusion of the people, government, leaders, and rulers, the poor, lost-found members of the black nation who are called Negroes are their enemies and must know that the truth is their salvation and their greatest weapon at this time. The preachings and teachings of the true knowledge of God and the devil, which Allah God has missioned me to do, and I am doing for you, are beyond value. It is your life and the light of your life. It will bring you out of the spiritual darkness and ignorance into which you have been placed by the enemy of God of truth and light and understanding. The rising of opposition against divine truth revealed in the last days also has been told by the prophets of old, and we have it in writing that this opposition against the truth is not to be feared by you who believe and have understanding. The truth would be attacked by the disbeliever and hypocrite in the last days. A champion without an opponent cannot be recognized as a champion. Since the making of the devil, he has been the chief opponent, and he will continue to be until he is destroyed by God. He, the devil, teaches and trains others of all races, organizations, and religion. His world has created various religions in opposition to the true religion, and he prepared them for a final attack on the God of truth and his word, which is truth, as well as his representatives who are called apostles, messengers, and prophets. This is a last attempt to defend falsehood and mislead the people who otherwise would have followed and believed in the God of truth and his messengers and prophets. Number one, you should know that this is the time in which such war has begun. Without the knowledge of the time, you are still the loser. Allah God has revealed the time, and it is verified by the prophecy of the Bible and Quran. 2. Your place in such times is with your own. Why should you join your own? The answer is because of divine judgment, destruction, and doom of other than your own. The most hated and despised thing today is this: the devil's wicked world is the true knowledge of God and the devil. This truth must come to you today. If not, there can't be any justifications of the teaching and prophecy of the prophets. However, it will stand and be fulfilled to the very letter and spirit. The heavens and the earth were created according to the Holy Quran in truth. Therefore, since the foundation of our universe was created and built in truth, falsehood cannot survive in it. The average lost-found member of the original black nation is afraid to accept his or her own salvation because of the dislike of his enemies. 3. We must forget about trying to do for others before doing that which we have not done for ourselves, which is to establish love and unity in our brotherhood. You rise up and yell out in ignorance against yourself when you say that you want unity, love, and brotherhood of the nations. Those nations look at you where disunity is the order of the day and see your dislike of self and kind. You are an ignorant and foolish people. Your first desire should be love of self instead of love for those other than your own. If you do not love your own brother, who is of your own flesh and blood, how can others than your own flesh and blood accept your love and brotherhood? First, love thyself and thy own brother as thyself, and others will love you. I advise you to accept our 3 economic plans, which will work a miracle for you. Unite and stop your extravagant spending, trying to live on the level with millionaires, and you will make a heaven for yourselves like other nations have done. My followers and I are doing just that, and will continue to do so. You are invited to join us and contribute to our program. The preaching that we should have some of this earth we call our own is far from being an ignorant teaching that cannot be accomplished. This is wisdom. You should know in these days and times, without some of this earth of your own, we will never be a people to produce for ourselves. We cannot continue to increase our population in hope that the white men will continue to create employment for us. I warn you daily that there will come a time when they probably will drop you and you will have to do for yourself. Start practicing the art of doing for self now. It is only laziness for you and your children to want to be the servants for another nation. How can self-independence be accomplished? Israel, with her disbelieving people, said the same thing, but God knew how to make a way for Israel to have something to call her own. He had too many people who did not believe in him, so he destroyed them and gave Israel a house. If you will believe in Allah and his revelation that he has given to me, he is well able to do the same for you. We must give up trying to live in peace with the people with whom we have spent 400 years without any peace. Even today, they stand ready to slaughter you just because they hate you. My followers and I are being accused of being un-American. We actually do not know what is American and what is un-American, as the United States of America has not instructed us as to what constitutes an American or an un-American. Recently, the California State Senate Fact-Finding Subcommittee on Un-American Activities, in their 11th report to the 1961 regular California legislature in Sacramento, California, on the pages of 131 through 138, under the heading, "The Negro Muslims are charging us with being un-American, that we now operate a school for the indoctrination of young Negroes with race hatred. This is untrue, for we only teach them who you really are. They can hate or love you. It is up to them. You have always had private schools. First, your students not only learn to hate Negroes, but are the #1 murderers of Negroes. Second, we do not teach them to disregard their family names. They do not know them. We teach them to discard your family names and get their real nation's names, for your names are not our legal names. On page 136, we are classified along with the Communist Party. For 34 years, we have not been anything other than a peaceful people who have never carried weapons, nor have we made any aggressive moves or attacks on anyone. The Negro Muslims, of course, Muslims or Muslims means the same as Mohammed and Muhammad. Only one is common in English and the other one is in Arabic. In Arabic, Muslim and Muhammad are scholarly. The so-called fact-finding committee, we are not surprised to hear, read false statements against us, the Muslims, by the American white people. This is only their nature. They are not created to tell, teach, preach, or represent truth when it comes to the Negroes, God, and the righteous. Usually, I do not waste my time on the untrue things that I hear or read about me and my followers stated by our open enemies, the white people, and those of my people whom they have poisoned against self and their kind. It is written in the scriptures of truth that the devils would put out such evil and false accusations against the messenger of Allah and his followers in these last days of their evil and bloody world. I think Allah God will not allow falsehood to triumph over truth in his days. This so-called fact-finding committee on page 131 says that my father took me to Detroit, where I attended the public schools until reaching the 3rd grade, at which that point I left home at the age of 16 and wandered from my city to city, serving various jail terms for vagrancy and other minor offenses, except for a term of 4 years in the federal penitentiary. The truth is, I was born in Georgia, went to public schools in Georgia, and was never out of the state of Georgia until I was 25 years of age. I married and had 2 children and moved to Detroit in April of 1923 from Macon, Georgia, where I worked for the Southern Railroad Company, the Cherokee Brick Company, the latter as a tram-road foreman and builder. I was never arrested and served no jail terms on any charges until 1934. Then I committed myself to the jail in Detroit after learning that the Michigan State Board of Education had arrested Muslim teachers of the School of Islam and the Secretary of the Temple on false charges of contributing to the delinquency of minors. This false charge was dropped and the teachers was freed. I was at the time given 6 months probation to put our Muslim children back in the public schools under Christian teachers. This I did not do, and I moved in September of that same year to Chicago. The next time I was arrested was May 8th, 1942 in Washington, D.C. by the FBI for not being registered for the draft. When the call was made for all males between 18 and 44, I refused, not evading, on the grounds that first, I was a Muslim and would not take part in war, and especially not on the side with the infidels. Second, I was 45 years of age and was not, according to the law, required to register. The above can be verified from the court records in Detroit and Washington, D.C. The name Poole was never my name, nor was it my father's name. It was the name of the white slave masters of my grandfather after the so-called freedom of my fathers. They, being robbed of the knowledge of themselves and kind for the past 300 years, did not know what deadly harm the slave master name would do to them in the way of true freedom and recognition among the free and independent nations of our own, and the spiritual non-acceptance by Allah God on the day of resurrection from the devil's names. They allowed themselves to continue to be called by the devil slave master's name, but on the coming and appearance of Allah in 1930, who taught me a thorough knowledge of the devils, the time and the resurrection and the end and the judgment of the devils and their followers, and the danger of being called by the devil's names and believing what they teach as religion. He, Allah, gave me his name. Later, my father and all of our family accepted the name Muhammad. Other believers in Detroit and Chicago accepted many other names of his, called the attributes, and his true religion and only religion of God, Islam. The religion Islam is universally recognized as the true religion of God, even by many of the disbelievers and infidels and Hindus. Over 3 million white Americans recognize it in secret. We want to know just what is characterized as un-American. What is characterized as true American? Is being Muslims by righteously trying to obey and observe all the divine laws of God that even you and the Christians preach but do not obey, and trying to obey your civil laws, what you call un-American? You and the world know that we seek to do no evil to anyone. We carry no weapons of evil. We are trying to be respected, and we respect you as the rulers of the land. You printed my 12-point program for my people on pages 132 and 133. Is there anything wrong with any of the words mentioned in it for my people? 1. Separate ourselves from the slave master. You had us segregated for 400 years, and now you say that we are free. Is it being un-American to leave you or separate from you, a people who have enslaved and destroyed us as human beings? Have not you separated yourselves from us? 2. Is pooling our resources, education, and qualifications for self-independence as you and other nations have done, and since you say we are free? What do you call un-American? 3. Should we not stop forcing ourselves, our presence on you in places of yours where you forbid us and tell us we are not wanted? Is this what you call un-American? Keeping away from that of yours that you forbade us? 4. Making our own neighborhood a decent place to live and seeking a place in your neighborhood just because yours look better and cleaner? Making wherever we live a nice and clean place to live and making a decent life among ourselves? If you and yours can do it, so can we. Is this what you call un-American? 5. If we want to rid ourselves of lust, wine, and other intoxicating drinks and learn to love ourselves before loving you and others, is this what you call un-American? 6. Uniting and creating for ourselves. Have you given us anything in the way of your past and present treatment of us that we can believe that it would not be hell on hell? 7. Is it un-American for us to build our own homes and schools, hospitals, and factories while we are suffering and being turned away from many of yours? Is it un-American for us to want to keep our blood pure from being mixed with yours, our enemies? 9. Is it un-American for us to stop wasting our money in trying to buy your finest cars, clothes, shoes before being able to live in a nice home? 10. Is it un-American for us to spend our money among ourselves? What little we have to spend? 11. Is it un-American for us to build up an economic system among ourselves? 12. Is it un-American for us to protect our women as you and other nations protect your women? Is it un-American for us to set up a clean, respectful society amongst ourselves as other nations? And should we not, as well as you, set officers over our societies who will see to it that the rules and laws are obeyed? You know it is absolutely false to accuse us of violence or preparing for violence. Allah God forbids us to do such a thing. You know it is absolutely false to accuse us of violence or preparing for violence. Allah God forbids us to do such a thing. He is the one who will do our fighting for us against you, as Jehovah did for Moses and Israel. Only Allah is a little more angry with you for the evils done to us than Jehovah was with Pharaoh, as Jehovah only wanted to set a sign for you of what you may expect today, and Israel was not the real people of Allah. Your evil and false accusations of me and my followers are only to frighten already frightened so-called Negroes from coming to Allah, that they may inherit the earth. You frighten, especially the proud so-called Negroes who have made you like yourself, thinking that they may be some of a help to us. But Allah is efficient as a helper. You will not be able to help yourselves pretty soon, let alone make poison proud Negroes to help you against us. We want to be ourselves, and we are going to have some of this earth that we can call our own with the help of Allah, as He promised us through the mouth of His prophets from Moses to Muhammad. It is up to you to mistreat us or treat us well. Do what you like. We will not follow you anymore. The United States of America calls all so-called Negroes who want to live as decent, civilized men or women un-American. We want to live in peace. We are they who want to be treated like human beings. We are they who want freedom, justice, and equality. We are they who want a moral reformation of our people as well as a spiritual reformation. We are they who love our people. We are they who love unity among the so-called Negroes. We are they who want to do for ourselves. We are they who want a home on this earth that we can call our own. We are they who want deliverance from the midst of our 400-year enemies who keep us subjected to the status of servants and subjected to every brutality and murder known to civilized men. We are they who seek to rid ourselves of such an inhumane race of devils and live to ourselves in peace from the fear of such human beasts attacking and killing us night and day, and they call us un-American. The entire federal government is against freedom, justice, and equality, and total separation of the so-called Negroes in a state or states to ourselves. We want not only physical and moral freedom, but even spiritual freedom. If it is the true religion of God called Islam, the federal government agents follow us everywhere we go. They question the new converts, seeking to pull them away by fear. They threaten them with the loss of jobs and persecution if there be the slightest grounds for it. They call in both men and women who believe for questioning just the sole purpose of trying to frighten them away. They are trying to frighten them from that which they know is their so-called Negro salvation and universal recognition, friendship in all walks of life, money and good homes. The United States does not like to see us enjoying these things. The only way is for us to accept Allah and His religion, Islam, and unite and lead such the double race of people. Remember, Allah is with us to the end. He will give us this whole earth to rule forever. Accept and do my 12-point program. The white race is destroying itself and wishes to take you and I into its own destruction. Be aware of their tricks. They are now planning them on you 100%. According to the dictionary definition of un-American, it means one that is not American, not characteristics or proper to America, foreign or opposed to the American character, usages, standards, etc. As you know, any or all Negroes who seek freedom, justice, and equality are charged or accused of being un-American. They are accused with seeking to overthrow the government of America by force. We, Muslims, prohibit the carrying of arms, but yet are accused of planning to overthrow the government by force. No Negro leader has been successful in helping his people to freedom, justice, and equality, who was not opposed by both his own people and the merciless, wicked white Americans, and also by those poisoned intellectual so-called Negroes who love and worship the devils and hate self and kind. Today, the American hopes to unite all educated so-called Negroes along with their already poisoned Negro Christian preachers against us, the Muslims who preach freedom, justice, and equality for the black nation. They are united against my followers and me. Thanks be to Allah, you are a little too late to win. Allah God knew the tricks that you would try to use in deceiving the black man before you were created. Un-American, I wish to prove, according to the English language, that every so-called Negro, Indian, and all white non-Europeans are un-American according to the dictionary definition of an American. An American, according to the dictionary, is a citizen of the United States or of the earlier British colonies, one not belonging to one of the aboriginal races. We belong to the original nation of the earth. The white or European races is not aboriginal, native, or inhabitants of the Western Hemisphere. The above explanation makes it clear that we are not members of the white Europeans or descendants of that race. We are the aboriginal un-Americans. The above explanation also makes it clear that we, the so-called Negroes, are not and cannot be American citizens, since we are not American by nature or race. A true American is one other than the aboriginal race or races that inhabited the Western Hemisphere or the whole planet before the coming of the white man from Europe. We, the so-called Negroes, members of the aboriginal black nation of the earth and the tribes of Shabazz, were kidnapped from our native land and people by the white Englishmen and Americans. We are brought here not to be made Americans or American citizens, but rather to be slaves or servants for the true American citizens, whites who originally came from Europe. We, descendants of the Asiatic nation from the continent of Africa, after 100 years of the so-called freedom, cannot claim by the law of justice to be Americans or American citizens, nor can we expect anything like equal justice under the law of true American courts. The government, with its great standing armies, cannot even force equal justice for the so-called Negroes. Why? Because we are not real American citizens. We are un-American, and by nature we are different. Know from this day on that you are a so-called Negro, red, black, or Indian, or any member of the aboriginal black nation. You are an un-American. even though you have been born in the United States of America, you cannot be an American